Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good freezing cold Friday morning. Oh, I hope that you had a nice night's sleep. It was cozy and warm. And now it's time for a new day. And this past week, I had the opportunity to kind of get away for a few days, which is like, I needed that so bad. Getting out of town for a few minutes. I ended up at the Phipps Conservatory and Botanical Gardens in Pittsburgh. And as I was walking through the first room that you go into, there's this statue of a woman in toe squat. And I just stood and stared at the statue for a while because I was thinking, like, God, that is the most uncomfortable pose ever. Like immortalized in marble here. And in my mind, I was thinking, like, how long did this person have to sit in toe squat to be sculpted, or drawn or whatever prior to being sculpted? Anyhow, if you practice yin yoga, you know that toe squat kind of sucks. It's one of those poses that's super intense. There's a lot going on in your feet and your ankles and your knees and your mind because, like, I don't know about you, but every time I'm in toe squat, my mind is like, why are you doing this? Time to get out. Anyhow, I thought it was a sign that we should all practice some toe squat this morning, especially because it's still so cold. It's still very much boot season here in Cleveland, and our feet have the tendency to kind of like crunch up inside of our shoes. So toe squat is a really nice way to help us kind of like open up our feet a little bit, to passively stretch our plantar fascia, to help our ankles retain their movement. And we're going to use a couple props this morning. I'm thinking mostly of just like a sturdy bolster type of situation. If you have a block around, you could use that too. You don't necessarily need a bolster. And I think we're going to begin with bare feet this morning because, maybe we'll give ourselves like a little baby foot massage before we move on to doing some poses. So let's just begin by taking your right ankle across your left knee and take your right thumb and just kind of press it into your right arch. And a couple of strokes here. You can grab a hold of your right heel with your left hand to kind of stabilize the foot if that makes sense to you. So just a few moments worth of this kind of like arch massage. Yeah. And then we're going to move up to the toes, grab a hold of your toes and just kind of move them side to side. Almost like you're twisting. So grabbing your right toes with your left hand, kind of twist those toes side to side. Notice how your toes feel. Notice if you're gripping them as you move them side to side. Notice if you're gripping your jaw. I just had to stop myself from doing that. All right, and then we're going to slide one finger in between the big toe and the second toe and just kind of hold it there for a moment. And then take that finger and move it in between your second toe and third toe. Good, and then on down the line, one finger in between the toes. Okay, just one at a time. It's still early, we don't need to go full throttle here. All right, so taking your finger in between your toes, just notice how each one of your toes feels. Good, and then we're just gonna rotate the ankle a few times in both directions. Nice. Great, and then we're going to do a little bit of acupressure this morning, our kidney one point or our grounding point. This is where earth chi enters our body when we go outside barefoot. So it's right here on the sole of the foot. It's right where the ball of the foot meets the arch of the foot, and it's like kind of right underneath where your second toe and your third toe are. And you're just going to press into that point. Okay, so this is called kidney one, right here. Just take your finger and press into it, and just hold it for a few breaths. And notice what your breathing is like. one more breath here. Alrighty, and then go ahead and just release your hand from your right foot. And we'll take the other side, so crossing that left ankle over the right knee. You go ahead and just massage that left arch. You might stabilize your left foot by holding on to your left heel with your right hand and slide your left thumb up and down the arch. Good. A few more breaths. You might even take the rest of your hand and kind of massage the top of your foot as you go. Nice, and then grab a hold of your toes and just kind of twist them, moving them side to side gently. You know, you don't need to really get in there and go nuts, but maybe just like a little something, moving all the toes around. Take notice of how they respond. Do they clench up? Do they grip? Does your jaw grip? Right, and then one finger at a time, just slide maybe your index finger in between your big toe and your second toe and press down. And then slide that index finger in between the second and third toe and so on. We're just gonna kind of move down the line here. Hey, this foot is my tight foot. It's my more narrow foot. And so I can really feel a difference in between my toes. So just a few more moments to get down through all the toes. Right, and then we're going to come back to that kidney 1 point right here, right where the ball and the arch meet, underneath the second and third toe. And just kind of press into that point. Good, hanging on for just a moment. Doesn't have to be forever, just a little something. Good. One more breath. Okay. Now go ahead and release your feet down to the ground. We're going to come to stand up, actually. Please don't hate me. We're going to practice a chair pose next, which, yeah, I get that it's early. Maybe chair pose isn't your most ideal morning practice, but it is a good way to kind of get the blood flowing. So taking your feet, maybe hip socket distance, maybe they're wider, maybe they're close together. Let's sit down nice and low and just reach your arms forward. And maybe you're reaching your arms up if you want to, but you don't have to. Your hands can even rest on your lap if your shoulders aren't quite there yet this morning. Notice your feet. If your toes are kind of clenching, pick up your toes, spread them out, set them back down. Good, one more breath here. And let's fold forward, standing forward fold. Maybe the knees are kind of soft. But just let your head drop down, let it be nice and heavy. Your spine gets longer here. You might grab your elbows. Good. You might sway a little bit side to side. Notice your feet again. Good, and if you happen to be standing on a mat or you have a blanket nearby, it might be nice to roll it up a little bit and place it underneath the ball mound of the foot. So creating this little bit of a flex in the foot. If you've placed the balls of your feet on top of a blanket or your mat rolled up, notice the backs of the legs. The back of your knees. And what the muscles of your face are doing. Just a few more breaths here. And slowly come all the way up to standing again. And as you get there, if you have something underneath your feet, just move it out of the way. We're going to take one more chair pose. And this time in your chair pose, you might decide to rock up onto your toes here, picking your heels up off of the floor And maybe like challenging your balance a little bit this morning. Strengthening those arches. Good, another breath or two here. Yeah, and then we'll fold forward again. And as you get there, just step it on back, and we're gonna take the knees down to the mat and find some cats and cows. Good, so just kind of moving the spine in any which way. You might round the back, drop the belly. You might take the spine like a jump rope, round in a circle. Good, pay special attention to the head and neck. You notice how they feel. Make sure they're not too clenched here. Good, and then send the right foot back behind you and press back into the right heel. Couple breaths. Good, bring the right knee down, send the left foot back, press back into the left heel, toes in the ground. Good, and then go ahead and set that left knee back down. And this is optional, but maybe for a few moments you tuck the toes underneath and pick up your knees. So not quite a downward dog, kind of this lifted tabletop. Good, notice your toes. And then set your knees back down. And let's just take a quick child's pose here. So settling your head down towards the ground. If your head touches the ground, you might rock it from side to side a couple of times. Maybe relaxing your brow. Relax your tongue, your teeth, your jaw. Notice your hips and your knees. Good, and then very slowly start to bring yourself up to sitting on your heels. And we'll just kind of sit here for a second. Kind of preparing for our toe squat. This is an ankle stretch. You might be really feeling this in the tops of your feet. And if this is really super simple, you might decide to recline a little bit. You give yourself a little bit more through the knees and the quads, or maybe you pick up the knees. Just kind of hover here for a sec, really getting into the tops of your feet, your ankles. Good, maybe one or two more breaths here. And go ahead and set the knees down, curl your hands back out. Let's just take one downward facing dog. That old saying goes, a down dog a day keeps the doctor away. I'm sure that's not true. That's not even close to being true. But I think it's a good practice if your shoulders and your wrists are up for it. Right, lifting up your hips, let the head drop way down. Feel the spine nice and long. The backs of your legs nice and long. Notice your hands. Notice your feet. All right, and then let's drop those knees down, and it's time already for our toe squat, which is kind of what we'll end on today. So this is where your big bolster might come in handy, or pile of blankets, or a block, or something, you know, a little something underneath the knees. It's going to go a long way. And you just want to crawl your knees up onto that so that your toes all touch down. Right? If that little toe is lifted, maybe lift the knees up higher. Right? Place a whole lot of something under there. Right? If sitting up tall isn't quite working, you can have the hands down on the floor too. Great, so just taking a moment here to sit up, to breathe. Even looking at that statue in the conservatory in Pittsburgh yesterday, she was kind of like leaning forward like this, like maybe not. So just know that like there's no perfect form for this. It's really just based on what your body is doing, what your feet are like, okay, how this feels. You notice your left foot. And notice your right foot. And notice the way that you're balanced above your feet. Good. Maybe 3 more breaths. Okay, and then come on out of this, just pull your knees off the bolster, move it forward. Oh, set the knees down, untuck the toes, and you might even tap the tops of your feet on the ground here. Good. And then eventually you'll just do your own thing and move on with the rest of your day. But it was really nice to have you here this morning so we could get into our feet a little bit. I'll be back on Monday morning for mudras and meditation. And this weekend we have a very special thing going on. Our 200-hour teacher trainees are going to be offering up mini classes all weekend. So Saturday and Sunday, I think we have 8 or 9 different types of yoga classes that are going to be offered on Zoom, ranging from chair yoga to vinyasa yoga and everything in between. And just keep your eye out on social media and email for that. Thanks so much. I hope you all have a really lovely day. All right.